he was perhaps he was my dearest friend and my best friend, not as man and woman, but as two human beings.
For decades, Hollywood believed it knew Maureen O'Hara's greatest love story. The gossip columns pointed to a legendary co-star. The studios whispered about an obsessed director, but they were all looking in the wrong place. Behind the flashing eyes and fiery Irish spirit was a woman whose heart was shattered long before it was saved. A woman who discovered that true love rarely arrives first, and it doesn't always last forever. Before she passed away, Maureen O'Hara finally looked back on the men who truly shaped her life. The husband who broke her trust, the partner who helped her heal, the Hollywood legends who were never the men the world imagined, and the quiet hero who finally brought her peace. This is the love story Hollywood never fully understood. The first man who broke her trust. Long before Maureen O'Hara became one of Hollywood's most unforgettable stars, she was simply a young Irish woman who believed love could conquer uncertainty. At just 18 years old, with a promising future unfolding before her, she quietly married English filmmaker George H. Brown in 1939. It was a secret ceremony, hidden from the public and even from many of the people closest to her. To the outside world, Maureen was an ambitious actress standing on the edge of international fame. In private, she hoped she had already found the man who would walk beside her through it all. But life had other plans. Only weeks after the wedding, Hollywood came calling. A new career across the Atlantic promised opportunities that few young actresses could even imagine. Maureen left for America, believing distance would only be temporary. Instead, it became the beginning of a slow and painful separation. Thousands of miles divided the newlyweds. Long days on film sets replaced quiet evenings together. Letters could never fill the emptiness created by an ocean, and with every passing month, the marriage drifted further from the dreams that had inspired it. For Maureen, the realization came quietly. Love alone could not overcome two people whose lives were moving in completely different directions. There was no great public scandal, no dramatic betrayal, just the heartbreaking truth that sometimes two good people can simply become strangers. By 1941, the marriage had been annulled. It had lasted barely long enough to become the foundation she had imagined for her future. Years later, Maureen rarely spoke about George Brown in great detail. Perhaps the silence revealed more than any interview ever could. Some memories are not forgotten because they are unimportant. They are forgotten because they still carry pain. The young bride who had believed life would begin with love now found herself standing alone in Hollywood, where fame was arriving much faster than happiness. She could never have imagined that the deepest heartbreak of her life was still waiting just beyond the horizon. The marriage that nearly destroyed her. When Maureen O'Hara's first marriage quietly faded into the past, she believed life was offering her another chance. Hollywood was opening its doors, her career was gaining momentum, and in 1941 she married William Houston Price, a dialogue director she had met while working in the film industry. This time, she hoped experience had made her wiser. She longed for something steady, a home where love would outlast the bright lights of the movie set. For a while, it seemed that dream might finally come true. The couple welcomed their daughter, Bronwyn, and Maureen embraced motherhood with the same determination that defined her career. To the public, she appeared to have everything: beauty, success, and a growing family. But behind the closed doors of their home, another story was unfolding. As the years passed, Price struggled with alcoholism, and the warmth that had once drawn Maureen to him slowly disappeared. The man she had trusted became increasingly unpredictable. The laughter they once shared gave way to tension, silence, and fear. In later years, Maureen would speak candidly about the emotional pain she endured, describing a marriage that left deep scars on her heart and her confidence. Leaving was not as simple as walking away. In the 1940s and early 1950s, divorce carried a heavy social cost, especially for a woman whose every move was watched by the press. Maureen stayed far longer than she wished, hoping things would improve, hoping the man she had married would somehow return. But hope cannot heal a heart that is breaking a little more each day. When the marriage finally ended, she carried more than the pain of divorce. She carried the fear that perhaps lasting love simply wasn't meant for her. Yet fate had one more surprise waiting. Far from Hollywood, beyond the cameras, she would meet a man who reminded her that not every love story is destined to end in heartbreak. The man who helped her believe again. By the time Maureen O'Hara's second marriage ended, she had little reason to believe that love could still surprise her. Hollywood had rewarded her with fame, but it had also witnessed her deepest disappointments. She had learned that a smiling face could hide unbearable loneliness, and that success on screen offered no protection from heartbreak at home. For a while, she stopped searching for happiness altogether. Then fate introduced her to a man far removed from the glamour of the movie industry. His name was Enrique Parra, a respected Mexican banker and public official. Unlike the actors, directors, and producers who filled Maureen's world, Enrique had no interest in Hollywood's endless gossip or flashing cameras. He admired the woman, not the celebrity. That quiet difference changed everything. When Maureen spent time with him in Mexico, she discovered a life she had almost forgotten was possible. The constant pressure of fame faded into the background. She learned Spanish, embraced the culture, and found comfort in simple moments that required no audience. Years later, she would write that Enrique had helped save her after one of the darkest periods of her life. It was one of the few times she openly acknowledged how deeply a man had influenced her emotional recovery. Their relationship lasted for well over a decade, making it one of the longest and most meaningful romances of her life. Friends believed marriage seemed almost inevitable. Yet life has a way of testing even the strongest bonds. As Maureen's career and responsibilities continued to pull her in different directions, the relationship gradually reached a crossroads neither of them could escape. Walking away was one of the hardest decisions she ever made. She later admitted that leaving Enrique remained one of the greatest regrets of her life, a rare confession from a woman who seldom looked backward. If Enrique restored her faith in love, why wasn't he the man she ultimately called the love of her life? The answer wouldn't come until another extraordinary man entered her world. A man who asked for neither fame nor perfection, only her heart. Hollywood's men who could never win her heart. By the 1950s, Maureen O'Hara had become one of Hollywood's most admired leading ladies. Her beauty, confidence, and unmistakable Irish spirit made her unforgettable on screen, but they also fueled endless speculation about the men in her life. Fans, reporters, and gossip columnists were determined to believe that somewhere behind the cameras, one of Hollywood's biggest names had captured her heart. No rumor proved more enduring than the one involving John Wayne. After starring together in classics like Rio Grande, The Quiet Man, and McLintock, their chemistry felt so natural that audiences simply assumed it had to be real. Wherever they appeared together, whispers followed. Yet Maureen repeatedly insisted there had never been a romantic affair. Their bond was built on deep respect, unwavering loyalty, and years of friendship. Wayne became one of the few people in Hollywood she trusted completely, but friendship, she believed, should never be mistaken for romance. Then there was the legendary director, John Ford. Ford admired Maureen's remarkable talent and cast her in 5 films that helped define both of their careers. Their working relationship, however, was often difficult. Ford's fiery temper and unpredictable behavior created moments of tension that Maureen never forgot. Some biographers have suggested he developed romantic feelings for her, but those claims remain debated, and Maureen herself never confirmed such a relationship. What she did acknowledge was that working with Ford could be both inspiring and emotionally exhausting. Years later, actor Anthony Quinn claimed they had shared a brief affair while making Sinbad the Sailor. Maureen firmly denied the story, maintaining throughout her life that she had never been unfaithful. Historians continue to treat Quinn's account as disputed, rather than established fact. The public spent decades searching for romance where there was friendship, admiration, or rumor. They believed Hollywood's brightest stars must have held the answer, but they were all looking in the wrong direction. The man who would finally bring Maureen O'Hara the peace she had searched for all her life wasn't a legendary actor or an acclaimed director. He was waiting beyond Hollywood, and with him came the greatest love story she had ever known. The man who finally brought her peace. When Maureen O'Hara met Charles F. Blair, Jr., she was no longer the hopeful young woman who believed love alone could solve every problem. Years of heartbreak had taught her to guard her emotions. She had survived failed marriages, painful goodbyes, and decades of Hollywood gossip. If another man entered her life, he would have to love the woman behind the legend. Charles Blair did. A decorated aviator, former Air Force Brigadier General, and one of the most respected pilots of his generation, Blair lived in a world completely different from Hollywood. He wasn't interested in red carpets or magazine headlines. He admired Maureen's strength, her intelligence, and the quiet resilience she had built through years of disappointment. Around him, she no longer felt the need to perform. She could simply be herself. The two married in 1968, and those who knew Maureen noticed a change. The guardedness that had followed her for years slowly faded. She often spoke of their marriage with warmth and gratitude, describing a relationship built not on passion alone, but on trust, laughter, and mutual respect. After so many years searching for stability, she had finally found a partner who gave her something Hollywood never could: peace. But happiness, as Maureen had learned more than once, could be heartbreakingly fragile. In 1978, tragedy struck when the engine on Charles Blair's Grumman Goose flying boat failed over the Caribbean. The resulting crash took the life of the legendary aviator and 3 of his passengers. The sudden loss devastated Maureen. Once again, the man she loved was taken from her, not by betrayal or distance, but by fate itself. Charles was buried with full military honors at Arlington National Cemetery. Maureen never remarried. Instead, she carried Charles's memory with her for the rest of her life, speaking of him with the tenderness reserved for someone who had changed her forever. Looking back, she realized that the greatest love is not always measured by how long it lasts, but by how deeply it transforms the heart. As the years passed and Maureen reflected on every man who had entered her life, one question remained. Before she left this world, who did she believe had truly been the love of her life? The answer revealed far more than a single name. It revealed the woman she had become. And in the end, that was the love Maureen O'Hara seemed to treasure most. Not because Hollywood declared it unforgettable, but because her own heart never truly let it go. In the end, Maureen O'Hara's greatest love story wasn't the one Hollywood tried to write for her. It wasn't built on gossip columns, movie premieres, or the chemistry audiences thought they saw on the silver screen. It was shaped by heartbreak, resilience, second chances, and the quiet realization that real love is measured by peace rather than passion. Perhaps that's why her story continues to resonate today. Many of us reach a point in life where we realize the people who changed us the most weren't always the ones the world noticed. They were the ones who helped us heal, who stood beside us when no cameras were watching, and whose memory stayed with us long after they were gone. If Maureen O'Hara's remarkable journey touched your heart, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Who do you believe was truly the love of her life? Share your memories in the comments below. And if you enjoyed timeless stories from Hollywood's golden age, please like this video, subscribe to Legendary Archives, and join us for another unforgettable journey into the lives behind the legends.